Ah yes, this sweet feeling we were longing for a long time. It's so sweet and the wait was definitely worth it. Because you know what? Seeing Jaekyung for once acknowledge what he's feeling and seeing in Kim Dan something different other than a tool. I actually can't believe that's what Jaekyung truly saw Kim Dan as for. And the best? We saw a teeny tiny bit of remorse and shame for the things he has done to Kim Dan. Not enough, but still a start. Because this character development is going to need some work and won't be done overnight. I think it was quite necessary for Jaekyung to sit with his thoughts and feeling for once and truly acknowledge them, so that he realizes what piece of shit he and his behavior were. Also, I think it's important that Kim Dan didn't come instantly and visit him to see if he's alright, but rather some time later for Jaekyung to get hit by reality hard. And as I said in previous videos, I just knew that Kim Dan will check on him apart from what happened because he's such a gentle soul. Since he got a throwback from his past, we learned that he never once was this sick and always had to put himself first. Not only that, but also that deep down Kim Dan leaving him didn't let him cold, but rather got under his skin. He struggled with it. Good. Because Kim Dan might be the best to ever happen to him. This chapter, especially towards the end, made my heart warm. We actually got a preview of what their future might look like. Kim Dan being the older one and taking care of Jaekyung being the younger brat and finally letting him for once. This scene depicted Jaekyung as a small helpless boy apart from anything he achieved so far, and I couldn't help but see the small fragile boy he once was. But the simplicity of this scene is beautiful. If we ignore what happened, disgusting things Jaekyung did and what happened between them. Just two men, deep down feeling something for each other, who had to take care of themselves from a young age, being together. Kim Dan, with his gentle heart, knows exactly what it's like to grow up without parents, though at least he had a gentle granny. But Jaekyung, no one. Do you think Kim Dan was pitying him now that he knows a lot about his past, and therefore continued to prepare him porridge, although Jaekyung behaved like shit again? I just know that still it's going to be a long way for them. Especially for Jaekyung, since he never had someone who was genuinely kind to him. To unlearn his well-established defense mechanism, it will take time. In this chapter, he at least realized that what he's thinking and what he's saying are two complete different things, and that what he's actually saying is coming out way harsher than expected. I can't wait to see Jaekyung in his thinking before speaking era in order to truly make an effort to be visibly nicer to Kim Dan, because that's what Kim Dan deserves. Actually, both deserve to be happy and have one constant in their lives who they can rely on. You know what? I'm so freaking much looking forward to see awkward Jaekyung because I just feel it in my bones that Jaekyung's going to be like that. He himself said in chapter 75 that he only had hookups without feelings. So it's quite about time. In general, it's really interesting that we now know the origin of his Jinx and why he's so cold the way he is. He never let any feelings towards him. He was thinking rationally and treating his partners as nothing more than tools to help with his Jinx. Just as he said to Kim Dan, I'm glad he's finally recognizing that Kim Dan isn't fitting into his prior scheme, now that Kim Dan awakens a deeper interest about him and Jaekyung. Due to my health, I had to skip the last thoughts, theories, and predictions video, so we continue with possibilities, what could happen in chapter 77. So for the first possibility, I don't think we will get the full jegging and apologizing node. It's just too early. He's slowly getting aware of and acknowledging those new feelings. So if we're lucky, perhaps we will see them eat together the porridge when Jaekyung would invite Kim Dan. Otherwise, as Kim Dan stated, he's going to leave after finishing cooking and leave Jaekyung to it. Jaekyung, now with this realization of having lost against Kim Dan, could be acting too awkward around Kim Dan and fail to proper invite him to eat or stay. For the second possibility, I think too that Jaekyung is going to be more conscious of how he's treating Kim Dan and realize Kim Dan's distant behavior. What if he's slowly starting to reflect on his behavior towards Kim Dan? And I don't mean just thinking about it, but rather that it's 24/7 on his mind and consumes him from the inside. That kind of reflecting. I don't think that he will be full healthy in the next chapter though. Since his health was bad for days, as Jaekyung and Kim Dan stated. The third possibility, what if we get a complete weird plot twist? What if Jaekyung, still affected by his fever, has the crazy idea to ask Kim Dan to stay? And more delulu, what if they get intimate? To be honest, that's so delusion that only 1% of me thinks that this could happen. But I just love that Jinx already had a lot of unpredictable plot twists, and I just love it. Though in Kim Dan's actual state of mind, I don't think that he'd agree since he's trying to distance himself from jegging our boy. But we will see. So, what do you think? What is likely to happen? Will we get an awkward and perhaps even shy Jaekyung? Let me know in the comments.